Here with a new episode of Chordplay. This is the Chords of Golden Earring, and I've had some requests to feature some of Golden Earring's music, and this episode's going to start this double Dutch series of lessons, because this episode and the one that's going to follow this is going to feature music and musicians from the Netherlands, or Dutch musicians. And Golden Earring formed in the Netherlands in 1961, and I had no idea until I kind of dove into their discography and started moving around. They were originally known as the Golden Earrings. And then somewhere around 1970, they cut the earrings part and they just renamed the band Golden Earring. They released, 25 studio albums, 8 live albums, 30 top 10 singles, on the Dutch charts. And they did have one single that hit, like the top 10, and actually hit 10 in the US charts, and that's the song Twilight Zone. Definitely kind of an overlooked band. They really only kind of remembered for Radar Love and Twilight Zone, which is kind of unfortunate, because they have a ton of music. Like I said, they released 25 albums. So we're going to do a deep dive and dive into some of their music. And if you're a Golden Earring fan, buckle up, because here we go. So in the guitar department in Golden Earring's music, we have George Kooymans. And George goes all the way back to the beginning, back when they were the Golden Earrings. And it was really interesting to do a deep dive into their music and notice all the various things that George did on guitar throughout their career, because stylistically they did kind of change and morph and mutate over the years. The 60s and the 70s and 80s and beyond. And George actually retired from touring back in 2021. He was diagnosed with ALS. So I hope George is doing okay as far as, his condition. But definitely a legendary guitarist and painfully overlooked. The music and chord-based examples in this episode came from 6 Golden Earring-related albums, and honestly, I'd never really dove this deep into Golden Earring's music before. I'd never gone all the way back to the beginning, and we are going to pick up something from the Golden Earring's, first album. Definitely a very 60s, sounding guitar part and song, but then we're going to start moving through Golden Earring's music. And, honestly, I was introduced to this band through White Lion and their cover of Radar Love, and I learned that way back when I was in high school. I've played that in cover bands and taught it to students a lot over the years. And that's arguably, Golden Earring's most famous song. So we're going to move beyond that, beyond Radar Love. So anyway, here we go. So with the opening, that's the song Twilight Zone from the album Cut, and I'm using the MXR clone looper to kind of recreate this part, but something like this. Like that. So basically, there's 2 parts happening there. The chords first that I'm looping behind me, it's really just B minor. You let that ring, and then you're going to go to E minor, and then finally F sharp minor, and then eventually go back to that B minor again. And that's really all the MXR clone looper was looping. Just those chords. And then when the chords shift, you kind of hear that riff take on a different kind of personality, because it's loosely based around B minor, that first pass over that B minor chord, and we're doing this. Right? And you could also play that up here fretted, but that's not the way they're playing it. They're doing it right there. Basically hear the bass kind of, define that and start playing that B note, right? and then you hear it move to E, but then you're going to keep doing that riff. But it's against that E note, right? And that's basically like an E5, E7 you're kind of flirting with, like that. So it's B to E. Then it's F sharp minor like that. And then back to that little piece of B minor. Now if you haven't really heard the full version of that song, that's like a 7.5 minute long song. Check out the guitar solo, which is brilliant. Also the outro guitar solo, which some of those kind of shreddy pentatonic licks, it reminds me of Eric Johnson. And George is just going crazy. Great song. Next up's the song I Am a Fool. This came from the Golden Earrings' first album, Just Earrings. And it totally has this classic like 60s vibe, like this. Something like that, this little single note intro. Like all on the B string right there, start on that D note, hammer and pull off that open B, C to the open B, and that A to the open G, and then you're going to change that D note to an E flat and do everything else the same. And then E, that E flat again. And then just go right into a G right there, like a big G5. And then you start strumming like G5. And then add this E flat, that's like a G flat 6. Move that up to E natural, now it's just G6. Change that to an F, now it's a G7. So definitely you can hear, riffs like that. Think like Megadeth songs and James Bond themes and stuff. Kind of has like that secret agent, flavor to it. And then C major, G over B, and then like a B flat 6, and that's B flat 6. Kind of ends on an A right there, and kind of cycle through that again. Interesting song, and I wanted to go all the way back to the beginning. That's why I chose that one. Next up's the song I'm Going to Send My Pigeons to the Sky, and I have no idea what's going on with that long song title, but this came from the album Golden Earring, which was the first one they issued when they dropped earrings from their band name and just started going by Golden Earring. And this is this ringing, chord riff with lots of attitude. I love stuff like this, like this. Like that, just let this E minor just ring. So that's a lost art in today's world of music because nobody, it seems, lets chords ring anymore. They're too busy like shredding and being all random or whatever. I love ringing chord riffs like that. Just E minor. And you're gonna bash out E minor to a G5, D5 over A to an A5 or A major like that. So they're all just smooshed together. And then that A5 and let that ring. And then this G5, this is like a D11 over F sharp. And you're just walking back down to that E minor, right? And do it again. Then you hear him start to pedal that low E. Like on the A, the riff's a little different. Next up is the song Nomad. This came from the album To the Hilt, and I actually had a request in the comment section for this riff specifically, and it's the scratch and sniff kind of funk rock riff like this. You know, something like that, kind of short and sweet. But it starts with this, like the open A, and then there's an A minor 7, like that. Right? So it's doing that kind of scratch and sniff rhythm. And then it's D5 to a C5. And then you're going to basically slide that D to E and grab that G note. And then start the whole thing over with that open A. Definitely an interesting riff, and To the Hilt's an interesting, Golden Earring album. I really wasn't familiar with that. I need to dive a little bit deeper and check that album out for sure. But cool riff. I love those funky kind of scratch and sniff riffs. Next up's the song The Vanilla Queen from the album Moontan, and I think this is actually a synth or a keyboard. I don't think there's actually any guitar in here, but the chord progression is interesting, so I'm grabbing it. Keep in mind this is Chordplay, and we don't have to limit ourselves to just guitar chords. We can learn chords from anything or any instrument. But it's something like this. It's really interesting. Played like a shorter version of it just to kind of make it through all the changes there, but it starts with D minor like that, and once again I think this is a synth, but you can definitely play that on guitar. Just that D and F note, and then it's B flat 5, B flat and that F. Little part of C major there, that's C and E. And then back to that D and F again for D minor. That's going to repeat again, and then it changes and goes to D5 after that second repeat, so we can do all that again. And then it goes to D5 right there. Right, and then B flat over D. Think B flat. Right? But you're really just doing that D note with that B flat. Then C5. And it technically goes back to D5 again, right there. And then do the D5. B flat over D. C5. And then end with D minor again, like the beginning. Kind of short and sweet, pretty basic, but I like riffs like that where you're really just kind of manipulating notes and it's kind of, quiet and subdued. It's not really like roaring in your face. It's very, kind of relaxed and kind of, it almost has this like scary soundtrack kind of sound to it. Really cool. Next up's the song D-Light. This came from the album No Promises, No Debt, and it kind of reminds me of 38 Special. See what you think, like this. Like that. So this D5, and then right there, that's where it starts turning into 38 Special, at least for my ears. That's an A over C sharp, like that. And then you're going to basically play the open A and move down to a B power chord. Right? And then move to A right there on the low E and A string. And then it's G5, D over F sharp, to that E. And then go right back to that D and start it over again. to spell out that G major, like D over F sharp to E, and then just basically play, I guess you could do like E7, like with that open D string, and then just end on that big D5 right there. Last but not least is the song Save Your Skin. This is also from the album No Promises, No Debt, and it's this arpeggiated, really moody chord progression. And I love stuff like this too, like this. And definitely an interesting way of kind of sneaking through and fretting those root notes on the low E too, and we're going to talk about that. But that first chord, it's actually an F major 7 sharp 11. So you're playing everything but don't play the A string, and you're doing... That's kind of the pattern. So the low E all the way up to the high E, but you're not playing the A. Then the D, B, and then that G string. So it's like 5 of the guitar strings straight up, and then, right? Take that F and move it to F sharp, and now it's an F sharp minor 11. And you're going to use that same picking pattern, like that. And you can see right there, I'm just using my index finger to move from F to F sharp, and then you're going to basically save this pinky finger. Your pinky is going to grab that G while you're still holding down the 2nd fret there on the D and the G string, and that's going to be a G6-9 played like that. Right? Interesting chord there. And you're going to go back to that F sharp minor 11 right there, and then cycle that whole thing like that. Definitely a handful. It's really a challenge to keep that ringing too, and not accidentally hit, one of the ringing open strings, and you're kind of making that, that bass note kind of move on the low E. Deceptively challenging, but really cool riff. All right, that's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with this look at the Chords of Golden Earring. Definitely a very interesting band, full of great music. I mean, 25 albums that date all the way back to like the early 60s or whatever. And there's just like this assortment of different guitar parts and chord riffs and like cleaner stuff in the beginning, and then like more overdrive and distortion as they went, and fuzzy, guitar tones and stuff. Very interesting band, and definitely George is an overlooked guitarist, and even though he's retired now, definitely his music and legacy, remains. And just, if you're not really that familiar with this band and you're looking for some different stuff to listen to or learn, dive in. There's some great stuff here. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.